Okay, with research, the best way that I can explain it, I guess, is that, and this goes with anything that you're learning, right? When you learn something and you get a better understanding for it, then like 10 more questions open up. You read more things, then hundreds of questions open up because you have a better understanding as to certain things that you weren't exposed to before. So that is where I'm honestly at, is like just trying to immerse myself into biomechanics research, specifically a lot of, well, really anything biomechanics right now, but more so the knee and the hip. And just that alone, like understanding more about even one variable, like how do we measure something in the knee? How do we measure this variable? You read like one article, that's gonna lead you to like 10 more articles, that's gonna lead you to 100 more articles, which granted, you'll never understand something fully in depth, but I think the more that I get exposed to research, it kind of just opens up your perspective as to understanding some of the important concepts in the field. So that is something that's interesting because, again, it's not like you read an article and you become an expert at this. That's why the PhD program takes so long. People think, what are you doing for 4 years? Well, it's trying to read as much research and come up with your own hypothesis and piece of the puzzle into the big scheme or world of biomechanics. So it's just, you're not going to be able to solve all the biomechanical problems or even explain all of the problems, but hopefully your piece of the puzzle is a stepping stone for future research. And that is what I would say to someone who's like, what do you do? It's, well, I study basically how the human body moves and trying to understand that more, trying to actually research this better, and then adding that piece of the puzzle so that it can help not only future research, but can help clinical practice. And that alone, like if you just hear that, it's like, well, how are you gonna do that in 4 years? Yeah, you're not. You're just gonna add a small piece of the puzzle. So for anyone out there that has gone through or is in a PhD program or is looking to pursue a PhD program, I will say everyone's journey is different. I think that's something that I learned too. It's like, it's not like a master's program where you have to take this track and then you all kind of get relatively a similar experience and then you graduate. For a PhD program, it's kind of like you're creating your own path. So yes, there are classes that you have to take, but as far as the research side and the teaching side and all of that, you're really taking your own path to reach whatever goals you have. So that's something that I had to learn that's different. So with that, thinking about the first year, everyone's first year is gonna be a little different in regards to what you're focusing on. Short answer is immerse myself in the research in this first year, get exposed to as many things as I can, get better at collecting biomechanics data in our biomechanics lab, and really start to get a clearer direction as to this is where I want to focus not only my PhD program on, but my career on, because that's the direction, whatever your dissertation is, most likely that's what you're going to pursue for the rest of your career. So that's kind of what my plan is this first year, is to start to formulate that picture. With anything, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. I mean, yes, I could create a lot of stress, and like I have to read like, 200 pages, 300 pages, not this week, like by 2 days from now, granted, I try not to get into that situation, but it puts into perspective because for me, it's things that I actually want to pursue. And I think that's the difference, is like, there's a lot of things that I need to do, but figuring out how to do it and feel good about it. Be positive about it. And instead of it becoming so overwhelming and stressful, it's like, oh no, tomorrow I get to do this, even if it's something that's not the most fun, right? It's like, oh, tomorrow I have to read this chapter for a class or whatever. That's 50 pages. It's still like, you know what? But when I read that chapter, I get so much new perspective and information that helps me with the research that I'm doing, that helps me with my clients in here. Maybe I'll come at certain strategies, whatever we're working on, with a different perspective. I guess what I'm saying is it's looking forward to doing all of this instead of looking at it like, it's an obligation or it's stressful. And that's something that all of my experiences, again, has helped me tremendously with, that I didn't realize truly until I got into the situation, because I'm pleasantly surprised that it's a lot of things that I have to do, but at the same time, it feels like I'm a lot less stressed and overwhelmed than I ever been in my whole professional career. So that's something that I know not everyone's gonna have that same experience, but it's something that, you know, people can relate to. I think when you start to do things that you want to actually do, instead of it being extremely stressful and overwhelming, it becomes something that you look forward to. And, you know, for me, I'm fortunate that I'm in this situation, but for anybody out there, I suggest that, you know, try to find something that you're passionate about, because then you'll start to experience things with a different perspective, or just new appreciation, I guess, for whatever it is that you have to do. So the next step is like, how are you gonna manage your time? How are you gonna figure out what direction you wanna go in a self-driven and motivated way, I think? Because no one's gonna tell you, you gotta do this. Like, no one's gonna hold your hand. I would say there is some, you know, holding or hand holding in like a master's program even, because you still have a lot of things that someone's gonna help guide you along. But with a PhD program, don't get me wrong, I have extremely supportive and, you know, helpful colleagues, professors, advisors and stuff, and anything that I need, they're going to help me with, which I'm really fortunate. But at the same time, if I don't say anything or don't speak up, or I'm not self-motivated to do something, no one's gonna say, hey, you better start doing this. It's gonna kind of fall on me. So I think looking back, directing a clinic especially, figuring out how to do things on a timely basis, working with large companies, working with clients that I gotta make sure that we're staying on track of their progress and all of this. I think that has instilled in me more than I thought how to be self-driven and how to figure out like, okay, if I wanna be here after 6 months, or if I wanna be here after the first year or 2 years, this is what I need to do to prepare for that. And I think that's the part that I enjoy the most, because anyone that knows me, I'm kind of looking a year, 2 years down the line and seeing like, how do I break this down into manageable steps to actually pursue or get there? And that would be my recommendation to anyone in their PhD program or just starting. Obviously, people that are well off, I mean, far beyond what I'm experiencing, you know, they probably have more insight than I can provide. But that's one thing I think, is to make sure that you are being accountable and doing all the things to take the steps and not waiting. Don't be passive. Do the things that will get you to where you want to be, wherever that is. 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. I think nothing will really happen if you don't take action and do it immediately.